Oh yeah, this argument that somehow Chris Claremont is like a chud and he's calling out modern creators, complete fucking bullshit. Worthless. He has said nothing like that. Nothing at all. So anyways, let's go ahead and talk about one of my all-time favorite comic book authors, Chris Claremont. And some of his comments have had the chuds going after it. They're really going after it. And before we actually go into what he actually says, let's go into some of these what some of the chuds are saying. So first, Clownfish made an actual video on this. We'll start this and kind of see what they say. X-Men Legend. Let's see. X-Men Legend destroys Marvel's current narrative about mutants. And I kind of want to show you guys what the chuds are saying. And then we'll go over the actual quote. And we'll see how they distort shit. Because they do this all the fucking time. They distort shit wildly.
Well. This is a very interesting turn of events. We're going to talk about the X.
I will say the article that the chuds are sourcing from, which I pulled up there, which does have the actual quotes. The headline of the article is not something I like at all, because even they misframe a lot of what he says. Marvel's X-Men and all mutants shouldn't be pigeonholed as minorities by us or them, says veteran writer Chris Claremont. We'll break into his actual comments here in a little bit. But how the chuds take this and manipulate it is insane.
X-Men, we're going to talk about legendary X-Men writer Chris Claremont setting the record straight on what the no pun intended, on what the X-Men are versus what they've been made into lately. And it's very interesting.
Made into lately? They've been that pretty much even since Stan Lee to a degree. Like, yeah, they've been that for a while, buddy. Not recently. This thing, dude, like, X-Men the Animated Series was 1992, and it was a civil rights allegory then, bro. Like, what? What they've been turned into lately? What the fuck?
He is allowed to be let off of his leash like this. This article is coming from Popverse. Marvel's X-Men and all mutants shouldn't be pigeonholed as minorities by us or them, says veteran writer Chris Claremont. Now, he has a new Wolverine and Kitty Pryde book coming out that I might actually buy. This might be the...
So yeah, fun fact, like you're acting like, you know, this is his new book. He did Wolverine Deep Cut, which I still haven't read, but he did that last year. I know he did a short story on the big X-Men, the end of the Krakoa era. He did a little short story in that one. Yeah, that was excellent. That was probably my favorite story from there. But like, he's definitely not as active as he used to be, but yeah, there are still stories that come out from him. Hi, Elam.
First X-Men book I buy in like 10 years, but I might pick this up because I'm like, God, what year is it? We've got a cover by Alan Davis, is written by Chris Claremont, comes out in April, and this looks like it came out of 1987, 1988, and I am on board with it 100%. So we're going to talk about that because he's out there saying this while we've got let's see.
Let's see. Is he actually going to dive into the comments? It seemed like he's already going away from that article, so he's not going to go into what Chris actually says. It kind of shows how they're just manipulating it. They're manipulating that one headline that's a bit misleading. Be like, aha, see what he says?
Let's see. X-Men Monday series author Eve Ewing? Is that
Eve L. Ewing, yes. Yes, she's writing exceptional X-Men. I probably should catch up on that. I've like, the first book was amazing. The second one was kind of a redo of the first one, which was kind of disappointing. Then the third one was fine. I still haven't read 4 yet.
Any relation to another Ewing? I don't know. I don't ask questions anymore, but saying that Kitty Pryde has always known that she was gay. Same with Bobby Drake. He's always known that he was gay, apparently, even though he's had, many female companions in the comics. They all know they're gay.
I would like a source for that. Now, Kitty Pryde, it might be that she's always known she was bi, because I don't think that's been explored. We've seen her in relationship with women or with men. But yeah, that's the thing. So Kitty Pryde's bi. And then Iceman hasn't always been gay, although I guess an argument can be made he has been gay. He just didn't know it until more recently. And by the way, people finding out that they are gay later in life is a thing that happens. So having that represented in superhero books is not like an unrealistic thing.
Gay. All the X-Men know they're gay, and Bishop is very femme for some reason now. What the hell is going on? But we're gonna talk about the juxtaposition here.
Okay. Well, will he actually get to the comments?
True. To an extent. I mean, I've been reading the X-Men since the end for LGBTQ folks and minorities, and while that's true, stand-in for LGBTQ folks and minorities, and while that's true, to an extent. I mean, I've been reading the X-Men since the 80s, right? And it is true to an extent that they were stand-ins, that there was a lot of allegory for the civil rights, movement, et cetera, et cetera. It was at its heart an action adventure comic that did deal with some, pretty weighty issues, I guess, for the day. But the
so just like it is now. Okay, cool, got it.
X-Men were for everybody. The X-Men were for anybody who felt like an outcast or a misfit or felt misunderstood.
All right, so again, exactly like it is now. Cool.
And whoever felt that was, kind of us against the world, or whoever, felt like they had to help people to be a good person, even if the world hated them and people hated you. You try to do the right thing and people still hate you. And the X-Men now are like,
okay, he's just kind of saying what they are now, honestly. But let's see, does he actually go into the comments or go into what Chris Claremont says?
X-Men a stand-in for themselves, and their own issues, and So anyway, this is Chris Claremont. Marvel's X-Men and all mutants shouldn't be pigeonholed as minorities by us or them, says the veteran writer. Chris Claremont says we should view mutants as unique individuals, not as minorities. That is a very interesting statement. And 5 years ago, Marvel editorial would have clamped down hard on him and said, don't you dare. That's the modern audience. That's who the X-Men are for. So the writer says it's not easy being a mutant in the Marvel universe. While superheroes like Captain America and Thor are celebrated and adored, the public has made mutant heroes like Cyclops and Nightcrawler into pariahs. Since their debut in 1963, the X-Men have been persecuted by society. Multiple storylines involve the team being hunted and imprisoned by government officials. Yes. Academics, modern day academics, librarians in Portland have compared the mutant experience to the civil rights movement, noting that the X-Men face the same type of persecution as minorities. However, longtime X-Men writer Chris Claremont says that it's more nuanced than that. Oh my God. In fact, he doesn't agree with the X-Men being labeled as minorities. During a panel at CCXP 2024, the legendary X-Men writer spoke about the relationship.
Yeah, he's just reading the article at this point. Let's see how far he gets into it.
Relationships mutants have with society. The challenge is to see themselves at the school as minorities. That's Charlie's job. That's Magneto's job. From my perception, what they are is a half dozen, maybe a dozen kids, young people living together, but looking on themselves as ordinary people. Yeah. To them,
yes, that is uncontroversial. To them, they're ordinary.
They're normal, and they get to go to school and they get to be normal, even though they don't look normal, they don't act normal, they don't have normal abilities or whatever. But when they're with their peers, they're normal. And that is a universal thing. That's not relegated just to being a minority. That's not relegated just to being, LGBTQ or whatever. Anybody can feel like an outcast. And then when you're with, like-minded people or other outcasts, you often find yourself. For me, when I was a kid, I was geeky.
All right. So he might actually go through this, which I will give him credit. He actually goes over all of what Chris Claremont says. A lot of this has been the filler. And what's most noteworthy is how he front loaded it with just like, oh, comic books used to be this, but now they're this. And it's like, and you haven't read a comic book in 10 years. You don't know. You are literally like when he was describing what X-Men were to him, that's what they are right now. Like my God. So I feel like we've gone over enough. If he goes over the whole article, good for him. But like, um, he's already front load this enough that almost doesn't matter. And then we got this dipshit Don Jell Rose. We'll go over his shit a bit. X-Men creator Chris Claremont laments modern Marvel comics turning characters into identity politics lectures on minorities. Marvel Comics has seemed not to know what to do with the mutant end of their publishing line for quite some time, with failed attempts at forcing X-Men into a mess of identity politics in recent years, where they pushed disordered LGBTQ lifestyles at the expense of their readership. Now, Chris Claremont has taken exception to this use of the characters in a recent interview. The X-Men have always presented an interesting group of characters with powers on genetic mutations. The Homo Superior was shown as the next step in evolution for mankind, with Professor Charles Xavier teaching young students to utilize their powers at his school. Stan Lee and Jack Kirby creation was born out of demand for superhero teams. Fantastic Four, a hit. Oh my God, this is lots of filler. Yeah. X-Men did not see the same success and teetered on cancellation for years until Chris Claremont revitalized the series with the 70s giant-size X-Men #1. Here he introduced the world to a lot of mutants, showing, much like Gene Roddenberry did with Star Trek, group working together despite their political differences. And this initial group was a German, Russian, and more to present a twist where it was more like United Nations fight against evil. Some of the stories under Claremont hit on social justice topics. For the most part, the X-Men were a swashbuckling adventure book. Oh, like it is now. The formula Marvel carried to success and eventually transformed the book into one of Marvel's bestsellers. In recent years, however, Marvel Comics has been trying to push identity politics with the book and hired transgender activist Vita Alla in recent iteration, who turned Kitty Pryde into a lesbian. She's bi. She's not a lesbian. Nightcrawler's origin was also changed to push the agenda. The agenda. The way these guys talk about that, yes. Well, listen, Mystique and Destiny have always been kind of accepted as Nightcrawler's parents. And they just kind of changed it. So, like, okay, yeah, Destiny's his mother and Mystique is his father. Comic books do weird shit. I just went over that Ultimates issue where it's like they're traveling through time and quantum paradox. They're fighting the Unmaker, but we have the main team fighting the Maker. Comic books do weird shit. To act like somehow Mystique being able to transform and become the father of Nightcrawler is outside the realm of comic book weird shit is insane. Insane. Anyways, Nightcrawler's origin was changed to push the agenda, making him a result of a birth by 2 lesbian mutants, even going so far as to have the formerly Catholic priest character officiate a gay wedding in an insult to Christians. Jesus Christ. You might as well just, instead of saying this, why don't you just write, "I'm a bigot." There you go. That'd be easier. Jay, to his credit, he posts the whole thing here, and he doesn't bother to actually address the fact that thing is nothing like what he talks. That's the thing. So they front load all this stuff with all this bullshit. Then we go into the actual quotes. It's not going to be that. So let's go ahead and go into this actual quote. We're just going to read the quote. I'm not going to read the rest of this article because the article is kind of chuddy too. It's just not as bad. Anyways, here's what Chris Claremont actually said. The challenge is to see themselves at the school as minorities. That's Charles' job. That's Magneto's job. From my perception, what they are is a half dozen, maybe a dozen kids, young people living together, but looking on themselves as ordinary people. They have abilities. Yeah, Leonard Bernstein had abilities. From their perspective, it's not much different. He composed and played brilliant music. They saved the world. A and B. The key is to think of them as people, not as heroes. Not, yes, I'm a minority. No, you're a person who's trying to live a normal life. Other people may see you as a minority. You may react to them as a minority. You may look at yourself objectively as a minority, but as a person, you're a person. Nightcrawler is the most dynamic, non-human physicality of in the team. But his attitude is, I'm a person of the person God made. Who am I to argue with God? I'm just going to live my life like a normal guy and see what happens next. Yes, he used to hide the way he looked because he's not stupid. Blue skin, 2 fingers, 2 toes, and a tail definitely makes you stand out from a crowd. It took Logan to challenge him to take off the mask and be a normal person and see if anybody else notices to get him to do it. But other than that, he just tried to live a normal life. Normal, cool life as someone who loves acting, who's a theater performer, who's a stuntman. That is the way you should look at these characters. Not as characters, not as objective concepts, but as ordinary, really normal, cool people. The rest of it falls into place. But you can look around the room at people around this table. Oh, look, that's an X person. How do you know? Well, it looks like Colossus. How do you know? Well, doesn't he? It may be Peter Rasputin, but who knows? You just see him as a person, not as Colossus. That's it. That's the whole fucking quote. And they're somehow saying that this is Chris Claremont being like, thank you, Alyssa. Alyssa? Is it Alyssa? Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. I agree with Chris, but what he says is not anti-woke. This is a hat-twisting PS. He described the X-Men in woke ways. We must cancel this guy. Yeah. So essentially what you're saying is correct. This is like, they're trying to make it out like he's making an anti-woke argument, and he's not at all. He's just saying he views the X-Men as just normal people. They view themselves as normal people, and that's just how he views them as. And Illy? Okay. And that's all he's saying. And, I've seen some of the chuds trying to frame this as this. Chris Claremont calls out modern X-Men writers for what they do. And it's like, you read this, like, they have to really stretch to make this anything. Like, there's let me see. Yeah, there's a little bit here where it's like, yes, I'm a minority. No, you're a person who's trying to live a normal life. Yeah, it's probably essentially just that they're twisting. Because there's nothing here that says, the X-Men aren't minorities and shouldn't be used for social justice issues. In fact, he's speaking of them as they are minorities, but they don't view themselves as a minority. He's going into like the nuances of the characters, but chuds can't fucking handle that. And instead just go into, oh yeah, he's just saying that they aren't minorities. It's like, how fucking dense are you? How dense are you to think that this is somehow anything like you're trying to twist it to be? It is so absolutely insane. So yeah, this argument that somehow Chris Claremont is like a chud and he's calling out modern creators, complete fucking bullshit. Worthless. He has said nothing like that. Nothing at all. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm glad. Fun fact, I met Chris Claremont a few years ago. Got him to sign my X-Men book. Also got him to sign this guy. I got Jim Lee on this one as well. It didn't make sense to have Jim Lee sign this one. But yeah, he was a nice guy. I kind of wish I'd pulled him over, saw if I got an interview or something. Because he was like, hey, you got a press pass? I was like, yeah, I probably should have been like, yeah, you want to do an interview? Maybe I'll get another chance. Who knows? But yeah, he was a nice guy. You've met Chris too? Yeah, nice guy. Yeah, and the chuds trying to claim him is kind of disgusting. I just wanted to clear the air because I was like, even the way this article is framing, Marvel's X-Men and all mutants shouldn't be pigeonholed as minorities by us or them, says veteran writer Chris Claremont. Really? Where does he say that? He just says he views them and they view themselves as ordinary people. Like, what the hell? I guess an argument can be made that he's saying they shouldn't be pigeonholed. But so what? Doesn't mean they aren't that. Best argument you can make is that he's saying they shouldn't exclusively be viewed as that. But so? This means he's a good writer. So yeah. Chris Claremont, cool guy. Definitely not going chud.
Books, records, films, these things matter. Call me shallow. It's the fucking truth.